Hi, this is Rich McNutt, the author of Hunter's Choices. I have had hunters feel guilty about leaving meat in the freezer. Personally, I do not understand the hows involved in a printed recipe. I needed to be shown how to cook. So this cooking series really is for me. I have discovered that after I try a recipe several times, it turned out much better. Hunt smart by choice and good cooking. If you are like me and only have a few good wild game recipes, this show is for you. You won't believe how great you can cook wild game. Hi, I'm Rich from the Wild Things Show, Cooking Wild Game. And with me is Lawrence from the Mountain Man Gourmet.
All right, howdy folks, glad to see you here.
And he's going to do a specialty for us. And you can go online to get his spices, and while you're online you can watch the rest of our cook shows.
So. All right, yep, he's got over 100 of them, so go watch them all.
All right, so what do we have here? Besides the chops, we're going to do a side dish. What kind of side dish do we have?
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We've got our beautiful, beautiful chops right here, and look how lean they are. They're butterflied, and they're just ready to have some nice flavor added to them. And we're going to be using our cumin red chili dry rub.
Okay.
And this can be used if you want to. You can put it on overnight, or you can put it on 30 minutes ahead of time. You can put it on right as you're about to cook. It doesn't really matter.
So this is the package as it comes in. This is packaged for mail order, correct?
Yes, this is the package it comes in, and this one package right here will season about 8 to 10 pounds of meat.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, as we're going to have two side dishes also, as you just mentioned. One of them is we're going to have some yams. Yummy. And one of the things that I learned to make was sweet potatoes with cinnamon flavoring. And it just, oh man, it really, really is great. And we're going to roast these in the oven. Really easy way to cook them. Then on the side we're going to have a nice little sauteed vegetable medley. We have some zucchini squash here. We have some yellow squash, or some people call it crookneck squash. And then we have some red bell pepper and some orange bell pepper, and these are sweet peppers, okay? So and also combine that with a little bit of shallots and a little tiny bit of garlic, and saute those up in some olive oil, and that'll be really good. So, are we ready to get started?
I think we're ready to get started. I'm going to get out of the way. This sounds pretty good.
So what we're going to do is just let those sit here for just a couple of minutes. And remember, this is really, really lean meat, so we're going to cook it just very quickly, but also not overcook it. That's actually going to be the last thing we're going to cook, because again, we want them to be nice and fresh, but we don't want them to be overcooked. Now these are what I'm going to make my vegetable saute with. We have our yellow squash, zucchini squash, red and orange bell peppers, a little bit of shallots, and garlic. So I'm just going to get these going. I'm not going to quite cook them yet, but while I'm waiting for my pan to heat up, and also for my meat to let the dry rub work into it, I'm just going to go ahead and chop up some of these. Now, again, the size doesn't matter here, but this is kind of a rustic type of meal, so we want it chunky. And here's another little secret. Okay, if you're like me, you like to eat meat, right? You're watching this show because you like to eat meat, and you like to eat wild game, and that's why you're watching Rich's show, right? Here's a little trick. If you give people nice big chunks of food as their side dishes, nice big chunks of yam, sweet potatoes, right? Or big chunks of vegetables, then they have to actually bite into them and chew on them, and it makes them feel like they're eating more, okay? And so if you can eat a lot of these kind of foods in addition to your meat, that will be healthier, but it will also cause you to eat less. So what I'm doing here, I'm talking and not paying attention too much, but that's okay, because see all these kind of odd looking shapes here? See, that's great, because you want that in your vegetables in this particular case. We're just going to cut these up a little bit. So we've got our yellow squash done. There's a nice little spot I don't want on that zucchini, and just cut the ends off. So again, I'm just cutting these in odd shapes on purpose. You can cut them in any shape you want. Don't worry about it. You don't have to get a measuring tape out or anything like that. All right, so we're going to throw these over here, and I'm keeping the squashes separate because they take, these take less time to cook than some of the other ingredients. All right, so now I've got my red bell pepper, and I'm just going to slice down here. And if you do that first, it's a lot easier to get the middle out. Okay, again, a nice rough chop here, and we'll just get that done. Throw this into our other bowl over here. Now we'll do our orange pepper. I just love these orange sweet peppers. So there we go. Nice rough cut for everything. And then sometimes I'll put onions in here, or sometimes I'll put, what I'm going to do right now is put shallots. Shallots have just a little milder flavor than onions. They're kind of, I don't know, somewhere between a garlic and an onion flavor, but they're also very interesting looking, and so they add just a an interesting color and shape to what you're making here. So what I'm going to do here is just slice these in little kind of oval or oblong kind of shapes. See that? Isn't that cute? See those little shapes? And they just add, I'm not using a lot here, just enough to add a little bit of that extra flavor. So I've got one cut. Now the other thing you can do, just like with garlic, you can cut off the end, and if you want to, here's another way to use them, is you can squish them, kind of like with a garlic clove, and then just cut the end off, and then you get the middle piece there, and that releases some of the natural juices that are in there. And then you can kind of dice that up. So now I have shallots in there, but in two different forms. So these little tiny diced pieces, these will pretty much disappear when you cook it. But then the other ones will retain their shape better. Okay, so let's just throw a little garlic in there too. And squish that. Cut the end off. Squish that. There we go. Basically, you find the end here that is the flatter end, like that. Cut that off. And then sometimes there's almost like a little tail sticking off. See, like that one has the little tail. So you cut the end off this side, which is the flatter side. And then, when you press it down, alright, so again, just kind of a rough chop on here. It doesn't have to be finely diced, and the flavor will dissipate a little bit as it's cooking. So some people like big chunky pieces of garlic, some people don't, but in this dish we're putting them in. Alright, so there we go. So we're going to just stick this right over here, because that's going to be the first thing that's going to go in our pan. Now we have all of our stuff chopped. Look at that. Alrighty, so we'll be right back and we'll show you how to cook the vegetables. Hey, welcome back. This is Lawrence from mountainmangourmet.com, and I am going to show you how to make a really cool, easy, quick tasty, nutritious, colorful, and yummy vegetable medley right on the stove. And we've got all of our vegetables already chopped here. That's how easy it is. So what we've got here is some beautiful orange and red bell peppers, some sweet bell peppers. And we also have a little bit of chopped shallots and garlic. And then here we have some zucchini squash and some yellow squash, crookneck squash. And we're going to just throw these all in a pan and stir them up and cook them. All right, so first of all, we want to get our pan heated up. Now my other pan, I'm going to be cooking, at the same time, I'm going to be cooking our beautiful wild boar chops here that we have our Mountain Man Gourmet cumin red chili seasoning on. And in the oven, we have our yams that are cooking, my southern style yams with a little bit of butter and cinnamon on there. Really, really tasty. Let's put some oil in the pan. It should be warm enough by now. And put a good amount, maybe about 2 tablespoons there of nice extra virgin olive oil. And we just want to coat that really well. Give that another few seconds to heat up. And then if we want to test it out, we can always just throw in something there. Hear that? It's almost sizzling. Okay. We're going to take this now and just dump the rest of them in. And then we're going to just stir that around a little bit. Now notice I haven't put in my peppers yet because they take less time to cook. So this is not going to take very long at all. And then I'm just going to turn it off and let it sit. And it'll be really tasty. The seasoning that we're going to put in here is mainly the vegetables, okay? Because these are very flavorful vegetables. The yellow squash, the zucchini squash, the red and the orange pepper. We have the shallots and the garlic. So we have a lot of flavor already. We do want to add a little bit of salt and pepper though. So I'm going to use this beautiful Himalayan pink salt, which is kind of fun. And also, you know, salt is salt is salt, but good salt can really make a big difference in your cooking. So always use the best salt you possibly can. Sea salt, kosher salt, Himalayan pink salt. And then a little bit of just ground black pepper, and that's it. All right, so we're going to just stir that up a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and turn my other pan on. So you notice here I'm using a wooden spoon, and that's because I'm using a Teflon pan here, a non-stick pan. Don't use metal utensils in there because you'll scratch it up and it'll all start peeling, and that's not a good thing because then you have to buy a new pan, and it's also not healthy for you to eat all of that Teflon that ends up in your food because of that. All right, so now I'm going to just throw in my red and orange bell peppers with some shallots and garlic. Let's put that over there. Just kind of let that, fold that in. And look how beautiful that is right there. Isn't that just gorgeous? Okay, it's like you're eating a giant rainbow right there. All right, so we'll just let that cook a little bit more. And then I'm just going to cover it and let it sit, and it will continue cooking on its own. When I make this type of vegetable medley, I like my vegetables to remain slightly al dente, and they also retain their shape and their color better that way. Okay, so this is just going to let that go for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to put some oil in my pan over here. One thing to remember is when you're cooking with wild game, especially something like boar, where you have this really beautiful lean meat here, you need to add a little bit of extra fat for the flavor, okay? So I'm adding here, I'm cooking not just in the oil, that's extra virgin olive oil, by the way. I'm also going to add a little bit of butter, maybe about a tablespoon or so in here. And then that's going to do two things. One is it's going to give it a nice flavor, which tastes good, right? But then it's also going to do, it's going to help the meat have what's called the Maillard effect, which is that caramelization that happens on the outside of meat. And the butter actually has just a little bit of sugar in it, believe it or not. And also the spice blend has just a little tiny bit of sugar. So between that and the natural sugars in the meats, you're going to have a nice caramelized coating on the meat, which gives it a really nice flavor and texture. All right, so this is pretty much ready here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my veggies. Give them one more little stir here. And those can just sit right there in the pan. And then I'm going to cover it, but not all the way, because I don't want them to get mushy. I just want to retain a little bit of that heat, but I want to let some of that steam escape so that they're not all watery and mushy. Now, when you're cooking wild game, you don't want to cook it on a high heat, okay? Because it will cook really fast and dry out really quickly. So it's better to cook it at kind of a medium heat and just to let it be. Don't mess with it too much, right? But remember, we also put a mixture of olive oil and butter in this pan, which is going to add a little extra fat because the boar meat is really lean. All right, and then also over here we have our nice stir-fried vegetable medley, and basically more sautéed than fried. But we have our red and orange bell peppers, our zucchini, yellow squash, a little bit of shallots and garlic. That's going to be really yummy. So that's already done. It's just sitting there. It's pretty warm still, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Alrighty, so we've got our wild boar here, and we've got it all plated up, and we're going to ask Rich to come back in and see what he thinks. So come on over, Rich.
This is going to be wonderful.
Alrighty.
All right, so now this is red chili boar chops.
Yep, this is with the Mountain Man Gourmet cumin red chili dry rub. This is how we seasoned it. So let's see how that worked out. Oh wow, that's a good sign.
Very nice Southwest recipe. It's almost worth moving out here.
Oh yeah.
Now we have some big veggies here.
Big crunchy pieces. So kind of al dente where you can actually bite into it. See, like that, and you know you're eating something substantial. So they're cooked, but they're not mushy. And you can taste the individual flavor of each piece that way.
So what seasoning do we have on the vegetable medley?
The veggies have no seasoning, actually. The veggies have so much flavor, and again, each one has a different type of flavor. So you have the sweetness from the orange and the red the orange and the red bell pepper. You have the crunchiness from the zucchini. The squash, it might look like similar to a zucchini, except it's yellow, but it'll be a little softer. And then it has a little tiny bit of shallots and garlic and salt, and that's it.
So it's almost naked vegetables.
Almost naked, yep.
And then the medallion is actually
it's a yam.
a yam.
And it's reminiscent. This isn't exactly how I had them, but it's kind of a recipe that I developed after several years of living in the deep south, and they have a nice cinnamon and butter flavoring, and they were roasted in the oven, and
It's almost as good as dessert. That's really nice. So I'm Rich from the Wild Things Show, Cooking Wild Game. This is Lawrence, from the Mountain Man Gourmet.
all right.
And we have red chili boar chops, almost naked vegetables, and sweet potatoes, yams.
There we go.
What did it take, about 35 minutes maybe, including chopping all the vegetables?
Yeah, probably 35, 40, cooking the, yes, about 35, 40, I'd say.
So if you want to be the wild game cooking god for your community, pay attention to this recipe and some of the other ones that I have on the Wild Things Show. Check us out. My website's wildthingshow.com. Lawrence's is
mountainmangourmet.com.
those Southwest recipes, and you can get them in the North. Enjoy.
All right.
You won't believe how great you can cook wild game by watching our professional chefs. For $6, get the best online wild game cooking show you will ever find. Now with 100 plus episodes. www.vimeo.com/on-demand/cooking-wild-game.
This is Rich McNutt. Enjoy.